What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video we are going to go over all my settings that I use on my Apex and my computer when gaming to try to get the best performance out of my game possible. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, share it, and subscribe. And yeah, we're just going to get right into it. So let's get started by going over to my settings. And let's go to the gameplay tab first. I'm just going to scroll down and go over some important settings. Mini map rotation, this is preference. You can have it on or off. It doesn't matter. Weapon cycle, I would turn this off. Auto sprint, I would turn this off. If you are new to the game, I would turn this off. I've been using it ever since I started playing Apex, so I just don't care to learn I don't care to learn how to play without it. I've been using it on. I know there's a few things in terms of gameplay that get affected by having it on, but at this point, I'm just leaving it on. I've been playing the game far too long with it on, but it is better to play with auto sprint turned off, so I recommend playing with it off, and that's that. Double tap sprint off. So on. Jetpack control if you're Valkyrie, I have that on hold. And so on. I don't use anonymous mode. I don't use streamer mode. Club invites. I don't even know why I have this disabled. I just have it disabled. Reticle. I'll show you my custom reticle color when we go in the game file settings. I do not use default. I do use a custom, but I have to change it in my game files. So when you get down to accessibility, colorblind mode, I have off, subtitles off. And none of this stuff really matters because all my subtitles are off. So I'm going to scroll back up. These are all my settings under the gameplay tab. Moving over to mouse and keyboard, I play 1.6 sensitivity on an 800 DPI. These are all my sensitivities for my custom optics. There is that. Now we're going to go to my keybinds. I have some weird keybinds, according to most people. So I actually crouch with shift and control. I hold shift for when sliding, and I'll use control for like certain other stuff. But most of the time I use shift. I know a lot of people sprint with shift, but I have auto sprint turned on, and I crouch with shift. Jump, spacebar, and then I have it on scroll wheel down as well. That's probably standard. People usually put it on down or up. Definitely an important bind to put jumping on your scroll wheel. Going down here, here's my alt, here's my Q. Interact is F. I don't even have an alternate interact. Inventory is my left alt. Map, I leave on M. So on and so forth. Pretty standard keybinds so far. Reload, I reload with X. A lot of people reload with R. But ever since I've been on a keyboard and mouse for 3 years now, I've been using X in every game. And yeah, I just reload with X. And I use R to pull out my weapon, or holster my weapon, I should say. Pull out my kunai, whatever my heirloom is. I use R for that. Z is how I equip grenades. T is how I equip my survival items. So on and so forth. Use syringes. All these I don't really ever use when I'm actually gaming. I just use my mouse 5 to select healing item. Inspect weapon. So a lot of people ask me how I always inspect my kunai so fast, and it's because I have it double bound to cap lock, and the G key, and I just spam those, and that's how I'm able to spam my kunai really fast. I guess that's a tip or a trick. If you want to spam your kunai really fast, double keybind it. Because these are two keybinds I don't really use. So that is that. Open emote wheel I keep at 4. Ping is down on my mouse. And all this stuff is not even bound over here. So those are my keybinds. Some standard keybinds, some custom keybinds. I haven't really changed my keybinds since I started playing the game. I've been using these keybinds roughly since I started playing. If you go over to controller tab, I don't have any of this set up. I've never played this game on a controller, and I honestly don't plan on playing this game on a controller. So honestly, I don't know what any of this stuff is. But now let's get over to the video settings. This is what most people want to see. It must be noted, I change my video settings pretty often. But right now, these are my current video settings, but I might change them again. You never know. Full screen. Play full screen. Aspect ratio is always 16:10. Always play stretched. I do play stretched. I don't like native. I've tried native a few times, and I always end up going back to stretched. But I use a custom res. I use 1728x1080p stretched. The standard, if you don't set up a custom res, is 1680x1050, which to be honest looks fine. But if you want a bit more visual clarity, a bit more sharpness, I would set up a custom res and play 1728x1080. You can find many videos on YouTube how to set up a custom res. It's not really hard, and it just gives you a bit more visual clarity. Brightness is at 70. I change my brightness a lot. Sometimes I'll play at 70, sometimes I'll play at 60, sometimes I'll play at 50. Just depends. I change it up. The brightness really changes like visuals, I've noticed. FOV 110. I used to play 120 FOV. I dropped it back down to 110 just because it's a little bit easier to aim on 110. You can see stuff a bit more clearer. 120, it feels smoother, but I don't know. 110 is a bit easier to aim and stuff. FOV ability scaling. I would disable that. I have it enabled. I need to disable it, but I have to do it in the game file settings, which I'm not doing right now, but I would disable this. Sprint view shake, I'd put on minimum. And then here's all my advanced settings. VSync, disable VSync. Never play with VSync. NVIDIA Reflex, I've heard people say putting it at just regular and enabled works better. I keep mine on enabled plus boost. I find, for me, this works the best. Adaptive resolution, put that at 0. And then that'll be disabled. Anti-aliasing, turn it off. Don't use it. Don't use anti-aliasing. Not worth it. Texture streaming budget, I usually play on medium. I have played on high before, which I don't really notice a difference, honestly, but whenever I change my texture streaming budget all that much. I used to play on none. I just leave it in the middle, medium. Looks good, runs good. It is what it is. I just leave it on medium. This is going to be based off what kind of graphics card you have. If you don't have, I believe if you don't have like a 2070 or above, you can't really use Insane. Don't quote me on that, I'm not sure. But this setting is very dependent on your graphics card. But honestly, most people could probably run medium. I recommend leaving it on medium, and that's usually what I leave it on. Very rarely do I change that. As for everything below texture streaming budget, none of this stuff ever gets changed. It is all just at the lowest settings it can be. I never change any of this. Just put it to the lowest settings, and that's what I do. I just leave all these on the lowest settings. So once again, these are all my video settings for Apex currently. Like I said, these are subject to change. Sometimes I'll change my brightness. Sometimes I'll play with this on high or none or very low. Sometimes I'll change that from enabled to boost to enabled, but for right now, for me, these are usually the settings I end up always resorting back to. These are my video settings, and yeah, that's that. Moving on to the audio tab. When you go to audio, master volume, I leave mine at 70. This is going to be dependent on your headphones, earbuds, system setup, yada, yada, yada. None of this is really important. I keep push to talk on. And then music volume and lobby music volume, I put that at 0. I don't listen to the in-game music. I usually have my own music on. And yeah, that is my volume settings. All right, now we are going to go to my game file settings. So to get to your game file settings, what you're going to want to do is you want to go to your file explorer, go to this PC, go to your local disk C, users, go to the one that's your name, or it'll say administrator, not public. Go to users, save games, respawn, Apex. Now to do the custom reticle color, you're going to want to go to profile. To change any settings in here, what you're going to do is you're going to right click it, go to properties, uncheck read only, apply, hit OK, double click it, and you'll get in here. So if you want to ever change your custom reticle colors and your game file settings, what you're going to do is scroll all the way down to the bottom and find Where is it at? Right here. Reticle color. It's going to be near the bottom. This is going to look the same for everybody. And then this right here is the color I use for my custom reticle. So it's 3 separate numbers. Your first number, your second number, and your third number, which is your RGB red, green, blue. So my red is 0. My green color is 285, and my blue color is 345. The in-game custom reticle colors doesn't allow you to go this high. It caps out at 255. And this is also how people get those glowing reticle colors. They usually change it in their files. I don't go that bright. This is more of a cyan color, but it's a bit brighter, a bit more emphasized. And this is the color I use. Everything else in my profile, I don't even touch. And so whenever you find a custom reticle color, if you decide to change it, whatever it be, you then want to go to hit File, Save, then you would exit, you go to Profile, Property, Recheck, Read Only, and Apply, hit OK. So now we're going to go to my local files. We're going to go back out of this, go to Local Files, and here's where you're going to find your video config. Same concept with the profile. You're going to want to right click, uncheck, read only, hit apply, and hit OK. Now in here, if you guys want to know what I use, you can look at this and copy. My video config file has been changed quite a bit to the point where I don't even remember anymore what has been changed. I'm pretty sure these numbers are changed from standard. I don't even know. This is where I set up my custom resolution is 1728 by 1080. The only thing I would recommend changing in here is I play with no shadows at all. And by what you do to play with no shadows at all is change this setting to 0 and this setting to 0. And what that is going to do is completely eliminate shadows from the game completely. This is not a form of cheating. They allow you to do this in the game files. I don't know if they allow it for tournaments, but it's not cheating. They're not going to ban you for it. A lot of people do this. Changing your game files in general, there's a lot of stuff that people do with their game files. Setting up an auto exec, all it's doing is changing certain game files, and a lot of people play with auto execs. So yeah, if you want to play with no shadows, you want to give it a try, see if you like it. It makes things a bit brighter, easier to see in my opinion. You change these down here to 0. So once again, you would hit File, Save, and then Exit, and you would go to Properties and recheck. Read only, hit apply, okay, and boom, you're done. All right, now that we are back on my desktop, we are gonna go open my NVIDIA settings in the NVIDIA control panel. But before I do that, it is to be noted that I use NV Clean Install to install my video graphic drivers. If you don't know what NV Clean Install is, this is NV Clean Install. I would go look it up on YouTube. Essentially what it does is it wipes all your current drivers on your graphics card, and you can custom install them so that you only install the drivers you absolutely need to run games. It's good for, I recommend NV Clean Install. It's better for your getting the appropriate drivers you want. You can go down to previous drivers, and it takes away all the bloat that you don't need in your NVIDIA drivers and whatnot. So I recommend using NV Clean Install. So let's go into my NVIDIA control panel. And in my NVIDIA control panel, let's go to change resolution. I play 1920 by 1080 on a 240 hertz refresh rate. But as you see, I do have a custom resolution at the top. And you need to set up a custom resolution to be able to run the resolution I run in Apex, or else it'll be the 1650 by 1028 or whatever it is. Yeah, once again, I recommend trying out 1728 by 1080 if you prefer 16 by 10 stretched res. It's just a little bit sharper of an image. So now we're going to go to adjust desktop size and position. And for stretched res to properly work on your monitor, you need to play in full screen. I believe you can also play aspect ratio. I'm not sure, but I think you have to play full screen. And performance or perform scaling on your display. I think the GPU can do scaling, but I'm pretty sure GPU scaling produces more input delay or latency, whatever it is. I don't know. I've always been told to use display scaling. So I would recommend using display scaling and using this full screen if you play stretched res. I know there's more ways to play stretched res. That's how I do it. There's a way to do it to like get rid of all input delay. I don't really know anything about that. I just use full screen display scaling for my adjust desktop size and position. Under the adjust desktop color settings, I play with my digital vibrance on my gaming monitor at 90%. I would at least recommend bumping this to 70%. It just makes your game look a little bit more vibrant. I personally prefer 90. I've tried 100. 100's fine. I just like having a lot of digital vibrance. I've noticed it helps with your colors popping out. I think my digital vibrance works better than my monitor's vibrant settings. So these are my color settings. Gamma I leave at 1, contrast 50, brightness 50. All that's the same. Digital vibrance 90. Now we're gonna go to manage 3D settings. And in your manage 3D settings, these are what I have set up. So I'm just gonna scroll down and go over a few things. Image sharpening is off by default, but we'll get into that here in a minute. All these are how I have everything set up. CUDAs, you want to make sure that's on all. In your monitor technology, I would make sure that's on a fixed refresh rate. OpenGL rendering GPU, you want to make sure you have your graphics card marked. Do not do auto select. Hit your graphics card. When it comes to power management, I prefer maximum performance. Texture filtering, quality, high performance. Some of these settings you can change, but I have them set up to get the most amount of FPS possible and keep my system having the highest performance possible. We're now going to go to program settings. Select a program. My Apex Legends has some custom settings. Image sharpening is NVIDIA recommended, which is on, which puts it at 0.4. Sharpen and ignore film grain to 0.15. I, for gaming, would recommend turning that on. It makes stuff, especially like stretched resolution, a little bit sharper, makes it look a little bit nicer. You can leave it off, but honestly, having it on really isn't going to give you any less performance. So I use NVIDIA recommended image sharpening. Anti-aliasing gamma correction, also I have it turned on. I would turn that on as well. Low latency mode, I have at ultra. Once again, I've heard having it just on works perfectly fine, but I just have mine at ultra, and yeah. So I max my frame rate at 180. I know a lot of people do 190. I just go down to 180. The difference between 180 and 190 is not that big. I can get a solid 180 without ever really losing frames. And this is where I cap my frame rate. Now, a lot of people will cap their frame rate in the game files or in the launch commands or a third-party software. There's many ways to cap your in-game frame rate. There's a lot of people out there that say this is better, that's better. I just do it right here. I don't ever have any screen tearing or notice screen tearing. Yeah, I cap my frame rate at 180, and this is where I do it, is in my program settings on my NVIDIA control panel. Now, as for everything else, it is just using the global settings, which are right here. Nothing else is changed. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for my video today. That's going to do it for my Apex Legends settings, my Windows settings. If you guys want to know any more of my settings I use, let me know. All of my monitor settings in terms of my actual display will be linked in the description. I use a BenQ 240Hz DyAc monitor, and the settings that I use for my monitor will be linked in the description, or they won't be linked in the description, but it will be in the description, like the brightness that I've set my monitor, the gamma, and all that. If you have a different monitor, you're not going to be able to use the exact same settings I have, but I know a lot of people in the Apex community have this monitor, so I'm just going to tell you guys the settings I use. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the watch. People have been wanting to see what my setup is, what my settings are, I should say, not my setup. And yeah, until next video, YouTube, you guys can go follow me over on Twitch. I would appreciate that. And yeah, follow my socials. Those are all linked in the description. If you liked the video, if you enjoyed it, please leave a like. Feel free to subscribe. And until next video, y'all have a good one. Have a good day, night, evening, morning, wherever you're at. And until next time, YouTube, peace, everybody.